Hello, everyone. Welcome to Restlessly Reinventing the Enterprise Cloud. I'm not going to get as dramatic as that sounded there, though the thing was called impossible. So take the impossible journey with me. Oh no, it's not switching. Boo. What's going on? Oh, I didn't turn it on. Yeah. Technology. Fun times. All right, so once again, my name is Tyner. I've been at IBM since 2014. I'm currently overseeing IBM Cloud infrastructure and database portfolios. You can see some previous credentials here as well. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey of my design history as a designer, then a little bit about my team at IBM, how we approach design, and then how IBM design thinking works at the company. And then I'm going to tell that case study about the impossible dream earlier mentioned. So my story begins in the Austin punk rock scene in 2001. I was in a band. I was doing graphics for my band, a bunch of other bands. It's where I really fell in love with visual design. And so from here, I moved into print design. I worked as a print designer for quite a while, working on magazines, print collateral, you name it. That was a fun time. I got involved with creating comic books. Has nothing to do with software design, but it was a lot of fun, and it tells you a little bit about me as a person. And then all the while, I was discovering my true passion. And my true passion is user experience design, and that ultimately led me to IBM. And that's a picture of me and Grumpy Cat there up in the corner. So enough about me. Let's talk about our teams. People plus practices plus places equals outcomes. It's an IBM design mantra. You'll hear it a couple times throughout this speech. The IBM Cloud Design Org is segmented into 7 areas. We have platform governance, services, and tools, as well as security services, developer services, my team, and infrastructure services, and a research org that goes across all of them. My team is also segmented into 7 squads, purely coincidental, but we cover a wide variety of products, as you can see here. But the people alone do not make a team. It's all about culture. I was discussing this at lunch today. Culture is so important to a team, and so culture plus talent equals sustainability. What brings people together better than food, right? So earlier this year, I had 9 new designers join my team. We've been kind of restructuring some things around IBM, so I had 9 new people. They were new to Austin. They were new to, IBM. And we started thinking, talking about who has the best burger in town, who has the best tacos, who has the best pizza. And so we decided to do something about that. And we actually created a bracket challenge. It was March Madness, NCAA basketball at the time, so we created the Starch Madness Challenge, where we were blind taste testing different hamburgers and french fries across Austin, Texas. We did a full bracket system. It was about 5 weeks. Super fun. Did it at lunchtime. Didn't take any corporate funding, any corporate time, but really had the team gel together and bond together. If you want to know, I can tell you who won the best burger. And also, we're on now to tacos and pizza as well. So we're still bonding as a team over food. The team also likes to bond over events, so we've gone out to several escape and panic rooms. I think these are fantastic ways to bond with your team because it's all about team building, and it's all about trying to do shared thinking to get out of these rooms. I'm happy to say we've always been successful at getting out of the rooms. The last time I had a team that got out with 2 seconds to spare, which is pretty amazing. So congrats to that team. We also take Halloween very seriously in IBM Design. So if you're ever in October 31st timeframe and you're in Austin, Texas, swing by the studio and see what we've got going on. It gets nuts. This is my team as the classic WWF wrestlers. We won Best Costume Contest that year. Here's my team last year as Super Mario Brothers. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of fun. So now that you've seen a little bit about our team history, let's focus on the history of design at IBM and the methodology of design at IBM. So in the 1960s, Thomas Watson Jr. famously said, "Good design is good business." In 1956, he commissioned designer and architect Elliot Noyes to establish one of the world's first corporate design programs. Noyes set out to define what he considered to be good design. His intentions were never to enforce his own dogma upon IBM, but to build a great team and have that eventually evolve into the true spirit of what the company could be. And you see one of our most famous pieces of work here, the Selectric typewriter in the background. Noyes assembled a team of the most influential designers of the mid-20th century. Designers like Paul Rand, the father of corporate identity. Mid-century modern design legends Charles and Ray Eames, and architect legend Eero Saarinen. This team came together to form what would become IBM's design legacy. And these days, we are continuing to commit into that legacy in the modern era with software design as opposed to architectural design or the design of the actual computers that we used to make. Our chairman famously said in 2016, there's one key to our future growth, and that is the client experience. This is a recommitment designing for people. So our mission is to create a global, sustainable culture of design and design thinking at IBM. How are we going to do that? Well, once again, right? People plus places plus practices equals outcomes. So let's talk about people. When we first started this, we had a huge gap, designer to developer ratio. IBM is traditionally an engineering-led company. So how do we turn that around? Well, we see that the proper ratio that we're all going for is 1 designer to 8 coders on the product. I'm not going to say that every team at IBM has that. It's not true. But it's something we're going towards. It's something we're always striving towards. Just better representation of design at the table so that we can get things done. Because design is not something that happens at the end. It's not coming in to make something pretty that someone else already figured out. Design needs to be at the forefront. It needs to be with the architecture team, actually working on what is the problem? Are we solving the right problem? And then how do we solve that problem? We hire a variety of disciplines at IBM in design, visual design, UX design, front-end development, design research, and industrial design. And we have a dedicated career ladder for those designers at IBM. So as you can see, no matter what discipline you start in, you go up the same career ladder. Everything from associate designer all the way up to a vice president or a fellow. And that track splits in the middle, somewhere in the higher band ranges. That's when a designer needs to decide if they want to be an individual contributor, a badass rock star, if you will, or if they want to be in management and head towards executive. So this is the journey of a designer at IBM. Now let's talk about places. The easiest way to kill the creativity of a designer is to stick them in a cubicle, stick them in an office somewhere where they're not talking to their team. They're not hanging out with their developers. They're not talking to their offering managers. So we designed IBM Studios. Here's our global worldwide map. This is actually a few years old, so we may have some more now. I'm from Austin, Texas, which is our flagship studio. We designed our studios to be collaborative spaces, places for real-time collaboration. You see a lot of stickies in the background. Stickies equals design thinking, right? But it's really a place for us to get together, to communicate our ideas with each other, and to share with our friends and our colleagues. There we go. We have a lot of different types of areas. So you can see we have some like phone booths, some small meeting rooms, little nooks where you can sit down. The really important thing is the third one over from the top. Everything at IBM Design is on wheels. That's on purpose. That's so that anybody with at least 1 or 2 people can rearrange their space any day they want to. We want our spaces to be modular so they can work for us, for you, not for the architect that built the building 20 years ago. And that's so important. We're also all about cross-pollination and critique. You can see that things are up on the walls. This is not a staged photo. This is an everyday occurrence at IBM Design. Many of our buildings, you have to have a badge to get in the building. In a design floor, you have to have a badge to get into the floor. That's because we leave our work up on the walls. All this proprietary information is up on the walls for everyone to see every day. It's very much encouraged to walk around the studio while you're talking to your teammates. You might see something on the wall that's like, hey, I'm working on that, or I've got an idea on that. You pull them over, you have a little conversation. The 3 people that are designing in this bottom corner do not work on the same team together. They just happen to be in the moment looking at something. And I think that's one of the coolest things that happens at IBM. We also have an organic culture of thinking, designing, and making. Things that have nothing to do with the bottom line of IBM, but have everything to do with the culture of design at IBM. We have a Make Lab in Austin, Texas. It's a screen printing studio. So you can screen print anything you want to at IBM. It can be something for the company, it can be something for fun. But we're all about making and doing. We also have, you can see here, IBM Community Radio. So we have a radio station in the Austin Design Building that broadcasts all day, every day. And we have a schedule, and that can be someone doing a DJ set. That can be someone doing a podcast about design. When Game of Thrones was still on, we used to have a spoiler alert podcast where we would just share Game of Thrones theories for about an hour once a week. It was a lot of fun. Now let's talk about practices. So this is the shift from that engineering-centric culture to that user-centric culture. And this is all about what IBM does. So we want human-centered outcomes, and that requires empathy for those users that you serve. Solving complex problems, it requires us to work together across our differences. IBM hires really smart people. That's what we're all about. Our slogan right now is put smart to work, right? So we hire the smartest people we can find, we shove them together, and we try to do something amazing. It's all about having empathy for your developer, having empathy for your offering manager, knowing that your KPIs may not match theirs, and how do you work those together so that we're all on the same team trying to deliver the same product together. So we introduced enterprise design thinking to do just that. The keys are the principles, the loop, and the keys, and I'll explain these a little bit later. The principles, they frame the way we see the problems. So a focus on user outcomes. This is pretty much the key to everything, but we measure our success based on the value we bring to our users. It's not about making a lot of money. Wouldn't it be great if we did, right? But it's all about the user getting value out of the product we make. A great story, when I was interviewing with IBM, they told me, every day when someone comes home from the office, they're playing on their cell phone, they're playing on their iPad, they're having a really delightful, enjoyable experience doing whatever it is they're doing there. Then they go back to work, maybe they're scheduling at a dentist's office or something, and the software they're using is horrible. The reason for that is probably because someone 20 levels above them ordered a suite of products that's supposed to work for everyone. Works for everyone, works for no one. So we want to make sure that the things we're building are for the users that are going to be using them, and that leads to better outcomes overall. Diverse and empowered teams. You never solve a complex problem alone. This goes back to what I was saying before with hiring the right people, getting them together, and empowering them to do what they do best, not prescribing how they do it. And then restless reinvention. Everything's a prototype. So if we consider everything a prototype, nothing stays forever. Everything can be thrown away. You don't want to get into a situation where the status quo becomes a blocker to making change happen. So we always try to pursue perfection with knowing the fact that we'll never actually be perfect. Now let's talk about the loop. The loop helps drive us. It helps us in the present, it helps us to envision the future. Part of the loop is observing. So observing is actually getting us into the user's world, seeing what they're doing, understanding their real problems. If you can't just put yourself in their mind without actually watching what they're doing, without actually talking to the user, you really need to get out there and understand what their problems are and why they have those problems. Reflecting. Reflecting helps us to actually get to great decisions. We have to slow down, we have to reflect on what we're doing, we have to reflect on what we've done. In Agile methodology, this might be your retros every sprint. But you have to understand what's going well and what's going to need to change in order to envision a better future. And then, of course, making. Making gives those concrete forms to abstract ideas. You have to get in there and make. A great story for this one, for a design perspective, is that a bunch of requirements documents, a bunch of bullets, a bunch of emails, a bunch of conversations in a meeting room, they don't really mean too much. It's easy to talk past people. You can argue on the same idea, even though you're both for it. But as soon as we start making something, as soon as we start putting visuals and prototypes and user flows in front of the team, it's really easy to see, oh no, not that, we need more of this. Without that, you're just talking past each other continuously, and nothing really gets started. And then finally, the keys help align us across all these complex efforts. The hills. This is a big staple of IBM design thinking. It's all about that commander's intent. We all know where we want to get to. We don't prescribe how to get there. I'm not going to tell an engineer on my team how to do what they need to do. I really hope they don't tell design how to do what we need to do. It's all about knowing where we're all going, and we're all going to do the best we can do to help the team get there. Playbacks. This helps us get to the right spot. So we all know where we're going. We've got those nice hills. But if we don't check in every now and then, every 2 weeks, every week, every month, however the schedule goes, we might end up with one of those pictures you see where the bridge doesn't connect. You're doing the wrong thing, you just don't know it. So if we keep doing playbacks, we'll keep on the same page. It allows us to adjust and be iterative and be agile along the way. And the final piece is sponsor users. This is so important to us. If you're not a pilot, you'll never know how it feels to land an airliner. It's all about knowing your user and getting them involved. So we try to get our users involved with us from the get-go, everything from the napkin sketches through the actual launch product. We want them in our workshops with us. We want them testing our products daily, weekly, all along the way to make sure that what we get to at the end is something they want to use. Because remember, as I said before, a lot of times, especially in the enterprise world, the software decisions that are made by a CTO, someone 10, 20 levels up from the actual person using the software. And it's so key to get that actual person in the room with you so you can make sure that the thing that was bought for them at the end of the day is going to work for them. So, what about the results? Well, IBM had Forrester, a consulting firm, in 2018 do a report on design thinking. What they found is that companies that are using design thinking are 2 times faster to market and show a 300% return on investment. They also noticed that IBM is leading the industry in design thinking. As you can see, this is IBM versus all other organizations combined and using design thinking. So that's pretty awesome. If you want to learn more, there's a link right there, ibm.com/design/thinking. It's all pretty open source. You can get all the tools you need there. You can get education. You can get badged up via Acclaim. It's all right there at your fingertips. Please use it. So now that you've seen the intent, let's look at IBM design thinking in practice. Let's go back to that story that was talked about before. So this story begins years ago. Let's take a journey. Not that type of journey. This is the journey of the cloud at IBM. In 2013, IBM acquired a company called SoftLayer. At the time, they were the largest privately held operator of public cloud infrastructure. They were a data center outsourcing kind of company. People loved SoftLayer because they would buy our servers. No one knew what was on those servers. It was up to you. We don't benefit from your data. We don't look at what you're doing. Super private, and they love that. It's very hands-off. We are still very hands-off today. We are not your competitor. In 2014, IBM launched IBM Bluemix. This is a way to provide developers with an easy way to host applications on the cloud. This started off as a singular developer, going to swipe a credit card, going to put an application up on Cloud Foundry. It caught wind. It was going pretty good. We spent the next 2 or 3 years trying to make it enterprise grade, expanding it to the fact that from a singular developer with a single credit card to an enterprise account. It was a big journey, but we got there. But in 2017, we had a bifurcated portfolio. We had IBM's Platform as a Service, which was developer tools and services, and we had SoftLayer's Infrastructure as a Services. Both IBM companies, but we needed to unify. And that was the mantra given to us. We had to do it. How do we do it? It was called impossible. When I took this job a couple of years ago in this department, they said, we have to unify, it's impossible. Cool. How are we going to move forward from there? Well, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So we started looking at it. Even from a brand perspective, you can see how different these two brands were. How are we going to get these things together? Beyond brand, it gets even worse. These are two completely different portals. They have 2 authentication systems, 2 billing systems, 2 types of support. All these screens are the same exact screen. None of these screens are the same. It was kind of a nightmare scenario. If you were using the cloud to its utmost extent, you had to bounce back and forth between these two quite regularly. And it was quite frustrating for our users. So our vision was a single IBM Cloud experience that included all functionality in one place. Our internal name for this work was the Platform Unification Project, or PUP. We started this with a new approach. It's all about the user journey. In design thinking, we're often looking at user journeys, but we've never actually framed a giant project like this around a user journey. You can see the back of my head there in this photo. I got together with some design leaders one day. I kind of thought I was going to have to do this on my own, and then the whole team rallied around, which was so awesome. You can see kind of a skeleton journey there in the background. We basically took a user and said, how would a user go through all these pain points? We want to hit every pain point we possibly got. What's that user journey? And so we framed that user journey up on one Friday. By Monday morning, we had every screen of it put out. This looks long. This isn't the whole thing. It goes all the way down the hallway. It was crazy. You can see all those little Post-it notes. Those are all pain points. But pain points are just areas of opportunity. So I love pain points because I can make the user's journey better by solving them. You can also see some different tape and stuff. Everything basically said context switch. So what do? We noticed that if we were to look at 6 different segments of our cloud journey, we could kind of solve this whole thing. Everything falls in between one of these 6. And so we decided we were going to squad up based around this. Not just design squads, full squads, designers, offering managers, architects, developers, and dev leads. Transparency was super key. So this is a stakeholder playback slide that we showed them very early on and what we were trying to do, because it was going to be a massive project. But you can see IaaS PaaS. That's a context switch every time. That's super painful every time. You might be super lost when you switch back and forth. Getting started, adding users, getting help, reconciling bills. These were the major areas of pain that we had. So the squads were established and we started working. We were working in AHA. We were working in Slack. Praise for Slack. We were working in Box Notes. We were basically working in every place we possibly could in GitHub. We were working together. There were 600 of us working together. Wow, that's just so much. How are we going to get this thing together every morning? How are we going to go through every afternoon and make sure we're doing this thing right? A handful of us met every morning in kind of a scrum of scrums and discussed where we were at, how we were going, and what we needed to accomplish in the following day, following week. We created technical requirement interlocks. These helped us to define the architecture and the exit criteria of every one of these squads. This was super important, especially the exit criteria part. Before we even started, we had defined fully what the definition of done was. We don't do that all the time at IBM, so that was very refreshing to see. A quote from our architect, Tony Irwin, the TRIs have been invaluable in facilitating cross-team collaboration and making sure everyone was on the same page. That's so important. We also redefined our project cookbook. So if you read through this, you'll see a lot of the stuff I talked about earlier about the design process at IBM, but we needed to make sure we had every step of the way mapped out so that all these squads, working autonomously but working together, knew exactly where they were going, all the way from that napkin idea through the release. And so the work happened. The work was going on. Some of that work manifested as guidance. As you can see here, this is provision page guidance for new services coming into the cloud and what they would look like. Sometimes it manifested as componentry, parts of our award-winning carbon design system here as well. And then some of my work manifested as giant spreadsheets where I was trying to make sure that my 80 services actually adopted this new process. This was me going over to every dev team and saying, hey, can you do this at a certain date? Can you do this at a certain date? Can you do this at a certain date? And checking back in and looking weekly to make sure everything was going good. The green is good, the red is bad. You can see there's a mix of both. I was reporting on this, we were all reporting on this, the progress of this work weekly. This is my executive progress slide. You can see some of the things were on track, some were at risk, some were off track. At the end of the day, we herded all the cats. We got everything done, and it was time to celebrate. We're done, right? Pencils down. But pencils down is only half the battle. One of my colleagues, Brendan Fitzpatrick, put together what we called Fleabags. We had that pup theme going really strong here. But essentially, it was all about quality. So we would get together full team, not just our QA engineers, not just developers, not just offering managers or designers, all of us in the room together. We would usually do 2-hour lunches. We'd bring in some tacos, and we'd be like, here's the scenarios we're testing today, get after it. And only when every one of these things went smoothly did we actually release this product. So after all that work, what were the outcomes? Well, we had a unified culture across IBM Design, or Cloud Design. That was great. A lot of the designers that we were working with had worked in the same building, on the same floor, probably went out to lunch together, but they had actually never worked together as a team. When we started this process, we kind of shuffled the deck. We looked at how many designers do we have and what should they work on? What are their strengths and weaknesses and which squad actually would work best for them? A few squads and a few designers worked on the thing they worked on before. There was some incumbency there. They had some subject matter expertise we didn't want to lose. But a lot of designers chose new projects and really got involved in learning new parts of the business, which was pretty unique. We also revitalized our process and we created a governance model. We now have a cloud governance team that makes sure that we ship every product with the highest quality. We don't let things just slip out into our cloud catalog anymore. We make sure they go through rigorous reviews, and that includes pretty hardcore design reviews as well. And then we made these technical interlocks, which led to improved quality. Also very important, as I said before, defining that exit criteria before you even start is fantastic. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to the new IBM Cloud. love that video, but it doesn't matter what I love. It matters what our users love. So what are our users saying about IBM, or cloud.ibm.com? We did a usability study where we looked at 5 different areas of the cloud: discovery, buying, searching, tagging, and checking your usage and billing. As you can see here, the blue is the pre-pup study, the orange is the post-pup. It went up an average of 2 across the board for everything on the usability scale. Our usability ranking before was a C-, not so great. But after PUP, it rose to a B+, which puts us in between TurboTax and Dropbox, which is pretty awesome. It's good company to have. What we saw was a 200% increase in task completion rate, a 2-point increase in usability, and a 58% in perceived usability for our entire system. And also a 14-point increase in that all-important NPS score. So that was great, but what's next for IBM Cloud? We knew that was just our MVP. That was our down payment on the vehicle. We have a long way to go. So I'm proud to announce that we have enterprise accounts out now. That came out last month. This is the way for enterprise users to departmentalize their cloud usage at IBM. So before, they had to have separate accounts, or billing managers were using spreadsheets to track spend. Now you can actually have different teams within your master team and track spend based on what they're doing, which makes that billing manager's life way easier. We also, in the upcoming months, have the content catalog coming. This is all about extending IBM Cloud services with deployable software assets. Things like Cloud Packs, which are faster and more secure ways to move your core business to the cloud. It's containerized solutions, works on IBM Kubernetes or Red Hat OpenShift platforms. We also have private catalogs coming. This is access-driven management of your catalog itself in the cloud. So do you want your team to only be able to spin up a certain amount of virtual servers, not the really expensive ones, not the really cheap ones? You can totally do that, which is pretty awesome. In the past, we've seen teams actually building their own UIs to make this possible and using our APIs for this. So we're giving that to them natively right out of the box. And then the third thing is network functions virtualization. This is about bringing third-party enterprise-grade services into our virtual private cloud at IBM. And speaking of virtual private cloud, we have the next generation of cloud infrastructure coming out. This is from my team. This is all about customizable software-defined virtual networking. This is going to redefine IBM's position on infrastructure and push us towards a virtualized future. No longer about hardware, all about software-defined networking. VPC Generation 1 is out now, and our Generation 2 compute is actually coming out in a few weeks on 9/30. And also, we've won a 2019 Good Design Award for this already, so that's pretty awesome. The last thing I want to leave you with is a quote from one of our senior VPs. The last best experience that anyone has anywhere becomes the minimum expectation for that experience they want everywhere. It's just like when you were a kid and you brought home an A on that report card. Mom and dad want an A every time, right? As soon as someone sees something really neat and really slick in a user experience, they're like, well, why doesn't my thing have that? Why doesn't your thing have that? So the bar gets raised every day. You can't just sit on your laurels. You have to keep moving, always. Always restlessly reinvent, and that's what we're doing here at IBM. Once again, my name is Tyner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. All right, any questions, comments? There we go.
Thank you for the fantastic presentation. I think I have to watch it 3 times to really catch every detail and every chart. It was a really
a lot of slides.
I have actually many questions. I would like to focus on how do you see the chance of IBM as someone who designs systems? So how do you see the chance of the designers at IBM to maybe transform the enterprise of their clients completely? I mean, we have singular software, we have singular offers. We are talking for 2 days about how we change complete enterprises to the better future. And to me, design systems, software is the back door where you can define even the collaboration of others.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. We have many avenues at IBM, of course, massive company, right, that do just that. So we have our GBS and GTS units, Global Business Services, Global Technology Services. These are consulting wings of IBM. If a company wants to transform their company into a design thinking-led company, We are there to do that. We're there to work with them day in and day out, embed with them to make this happen. On the cloud side, we also have the IBM Cloud Garage. It does a very similar thing, but it's more of like a hackathon kind of type of situation where it starts very small. GBS is the very big version of that.
Perfect. Any other feedback? No? Well then, I mean, you had cats, you had puppies, it had all the things. Thank you for a great presentation, Ty. Another round of applause.
Thank you.